Welcome back to another exciting trip around the CryptoCannaVerse. Today, on our 123rd episode, this is a jam-packed episode with powerhouse entrepreneurs shaping the future of cannabis and business. First up, we have Melissa Martin, the general manager of Asahi Seiko USA. They are revolutionizing cash handling with their AccuCycler Cash Management System. Melissa and her company is bridging the gap between technology and retail, perfect for cannabis dispensaries and beyond. Then we have Kathy Hartwell, serial entrepreneur and driving force behind Uptown Funk Dispensaries, Mississippi's #1 dispensary. Kathy's passion for innovation and community impact sets Uptown Funk apart. Get ready to hear how she's taking cannabis retail to new heights. Finally, we have Anthony Finno, the Chief Development Officer at Dazed Dispensaries. Dazed is not just a dispensary. It's a cultural experience, where cannabis blends with music, art, fashion, and food. Anthony is all about bringing people together through the power of cannabis culture. But before we start, we are going to have Alan Lau present our Bible verse.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you so much for everyone coming to our final episode this year, 123rd episode of CryptoCannaVerse. Today's Bible verse comes from, and it was chosen by Melissa Martin, Proverbs 3:5, and it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." This verse, Proverbs 3:5, encourages complete trust in God. It means placing confidence in God's wisdom, guidance, and timing, even when things may not make sense for our own perspective. By saying, lean not on your own understanding, it suggests that our human judgment is limited and can often lead us astray, whereas God's wisdom is perfect and far-reaching. In essence, the verse teaches the true faith involves surrendering control and relying on God's direction rather than solely on personal insight or logic. It's a reminder that while we may not understand everything happening in our lives, we can find peace and strength by trusting God is working for our good, guiding us on the right path. Melissa, I'd like to ask you, why did you choose this verse?
It's a particularly important verse for me because it reminds me sometimes when things aren't going your way or you don't know what's going on, just not to force things. It's just something I always try to keep in the back of my mind. Don't force this. If, something is meant to be, God's going to show you, and he's going to show you on his time, not yours. And it's just good advice. It's just a verse that I've always turned to. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Melissa. And that's actually a song that I always listen to is I Trust in God by Elevation Worship. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that song, but
no, but I'll look it up.
Yeah. If you like, we have a few minutes, I can sing it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and Melissa, yeah, I'd like to jump in here too. So that Proverbs 3 happens to be my favorite chapter in the entirety of the Bible. I memorized the entire chapter when I was about 7 years old for a Bible memory contest my church was having or whatever. But that whole chapter has stuck with me over the years because I feel like it's a blueprint of how to have a successful and happy life, right? Like it is a blueprint for that. It starts out, it says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments," telling us that the items, the things that we have to do in order to receive the length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee, right? These things that kind of define what it means to have a wonderful life, right? And I've always just found I really appreciate you bringing that up in here because that entire chapter is something I go to when I am in darker periods of my life and just kind of go over it because it reminds me, hey, nothing has changed. This is the blueprint. This is what we get from following the blueprint. There are brighter days ahead. Just follow. Don't forget my law. Let your heart keep my commandments, and then this is what's coming to you. So I really appreciate that, Melissa. It's a beautiful, beautiful chapter. I mean, all of Proverbs is just it's an amazing book in and of itself. But particularly love chapter 3. So just
Oh,
wanted to.
thank you. Amen. Thank you.
Book of Wisdom, Proverbs.
Kenny, you just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was
I love,
awesome.
yeah, no, I love Proverbs so much. When I was a child, I was heavily involved in these memorization, contests and stuff during church. And back then I did it because it was, fun, something to do as a kid. But I love Proverbs because it's almost poetic, some of it, right? So it's almost the same as memorizing poetry. And I was really big into poetry at a young age. And so I would go through these and take them chapter by chapter, and just always enjoyed the reciting of them. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that having these things in my mind, just the memory of it all helped me in different portions of my life, right? Because I would remember these different sections of Proverbs and Psalms that I had memorized, and they were just at key moments in your life. So I would encourage anybody that it to up your wisdom, like it was has been defined as Proverbs being the book of wisdom, to kind of help you get through different situations, to just read Proverbs pretty religiously, so no pun intended.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Melissa. Do we have any other comments on this Bible verse? No? Okay. Well, Kenny, would you mind going ahead and doing today's announcements and the upcoming shows?
I absolutely can. All right, so up here. All right, so thanks everybody. We'll go over the quick announcements here. So we have the CryptoCannaVerse is putting on an international pitch contest for females building projects in the blockchain related, in the blockchain space, companies. That's going to be on in February 2024. So to our audience and those that are on the show here today, if you'd like to be a judge or a sponsor, or sponsor women founders, please contact Crystal Cruz on LinkedIn, or you can email her at info@cryptocannaverse.com. We would greatly appreciate any type of help that we can get with this. We're really wanting to give back to the space. It's been a passion of Crystal's and a personal passion of mine to help out female founders in the space. They're very grossly underrepresented in some of these technology spaces like blockchain and AI, and we want to help fix that and help get them the funding and the help that they need. So you can contact Crystal. They're on LinkedIn, or once again at info@crystal at cryptocannaverse.com. So also for additional announcements, we are taking applications now for shows starting in 2025. So for all of our listeners out there, if you yourself or your network or a project that you know of it needs the exposure, the CryptoCannaVerse is taking applications. We have global the idea behind the show is to unlock global opportunities from your living room. This isn't something that a lot of times to have this type of reach, you have to go to a studio or these plannings. We do this all digital. We're represented in internationally in many different places in the world today. So the question would be, why apply? It's very cost effective. There's a huge networking group that comes in, save on travel expenses, connect with influential people worldwide. We quality connections. We meet, curate high quality individuals tailored to your business needs. And then once again, it's very convenient. As Crystal said earlier, that in the past few months, we've helped facilitate raising of over 30 million in investments. And then dozens and dozens of different business related connections, whether that be advisory or corporate positions inside these companies, or just connections to different providers and facilitators. So you can, once again, you can contact Crystal or myself to get set up for a time frame starting in 2025 for that. And I think that's what we have for today. Thank you, Crystal. Back to you.
Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and welcome our first guest speaker, Melissa Martin, the General Manager of Asahi Seiko USA. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. Melissa, go ahead and start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about the company that you work for.
Okay, so Asahi Seiko was founded in, I believe, 1964. We've been around for a long time in Japan. I started with the company in 2009. My background is in accounting. My degree is in accounting, and I started here as a bookkeeper. And I had previously had some experience in sales, and I migrated over to the sales aspect of it. And over the course of the last 15 years, 3 years ago, I became the general manager. So the company's been very good to me. I'm here in Las Vegas. The U.S. office is located in Las Vegas. We've got our headquarters are in Tokyo. Our factory is in Japan, and we sell these products all over the world. The AccuCycler is new in the United States. We sell these components that are for the cash handling inside self-checkouts, and we sell them typically to companies that make the self-checkout machines you see at big box stores, big retail locations, things like that. And we sell the components to those stores. We don't sell directly to those stores. The AccuCycler system is actually, I would love to say that it was all my idea, but it's what our sister company in Europe was doing. And what it does is it brings that technology to companies that don't have Home Depot money. They're not these great big box stores. There's these smaller stores where they're working in cash and they're having trouble with cash loss, but they can't or won't do self-checkout. In Europe, they're very popular because they have laws there, particularly in Belgium, where if you're working with food, like say fast food or bakeries, anybody who touches food can't touch money. So the cashier can make your sandwich or whatever and then ring up the sale. But the cash system, picture a cash system for a self-checkout, that's facing the customer. The cashier is still ringing up the sale, and the customer's putting their money in, and the cashier's never touching the cash. So we took that, and we've been selling them this way in Europe for over 12 years now. And it's finally starting to take off in the US with this different model. So we have geared this towards convenience stores and fast food, but particularly dispensaries because they're such a cash-heavy business. Most of them take exclusively cash, and even the dispensaries that take debit card, typically 70% of their sales are still coming from cash. So you're seeing a lot of issues with that. There's time spent counting a register. There's time spent doing the till at the end of the day or in the beginning of a shift. There's loss, of course. There's a huge impact on loss with that. There's a statistic that about 90% of all loss, whether it's product or cash in the cannabis industry, is due to theft or mistakes. So this is something that we've been hoping to help mitigate. And we got lucky when Kathy Hartwell became our first dispensary customer, and she's been a great champion for us. We were recently just at MJBiz last week, and I'm working the booth. It was really satisfying. I'm working the booth, just my turn, because we all, walk around and do what we do. And I'm standing at the booth, and a person who I didn't know came up and said, "Oh my gosh, the AccuCycler, I love this thing." And it turned out it was the bookkeeper from Uptown Funk. So like, oh, cool. So, now we're in the process of integrating with some POS software for actually a couple of different POS companies that I can't talk about yet, but I'm really excited about it and hoping we'll be able to share that information soon, because that's going to open the door for so many more dispensaries. Any dispensary can get this product. What we're hoping to do with the integration is to make it even easier for the dispensaries to use it.
Wonderful, Anthony.
Melissa, I've got a question about the interface and whether that interface coordinates with ATM machines on site. Is this machine something that lives by the cash register? And does it also incorporate a cash ATM?
Typically, it doesn't incorporate an ATM. It can be used as a self-checkout machine, and they certainly are in some instances. But particularly for the dispensaries, what they're doing is replacing the cash drawer. So they're being used two ways. So let's say somebody goes into a dispensary that doesn't take debit. They go to the ATM machine at the beginning, at the front of the store, they get their cash. And then when they go to the register, the cashier rings up the sale. They can hand that cash to the cashier, and the cashier can either, maybe they've got our system behind the counter and the cashier just punches in their PIN number and the dollar amount that's on the register, puts the cash in, it counts the change, gives the change back to the cashier, and the cashier gives it to the customer. Or it can be customer facing, where the cashier says, okay, that'll be, however much money, and they turn in their PIN and turn it on, and then the customer puts the cash in, and the whole thing's double locked. There's locks on the cash box inside the machine, and then there's locks on the vault that holds the machine, so nobody's getting into that doesn't have a key.
Amanda?
Got it. Thank you.
I have a few
Thanks.
questions. Do you have any examples of where we might have seen this? Is it around any of these because I can't think of seeing something like that in the US yet.
It's so new in the US, so we're just getting it off the ground. Uptown Funk has it, and we've got a video of that in use on our YouTube page, so
Okay.
I can certainly share that or send a link.
Yeah, I want to see how this works. And how would this affect accounting wise?
Accounting is going to make your life so much easier, because at the end of the day, let's say in a situation like with Uptown Funk, where they're using it alongside their POS software. So at the end of the day, they run a report and it's going to say exactly how much cash is in there and how much you made that day. And you tell the machine to drop the cash down to the cash drop box. The drop box is locked. The store manager takes that cash box to the back room, and you know that exactly how much money you made that day is in that cash box.
So it communicates with the software.
Yes, and there's no error. There's no, even if it's something, obviously there's no issue where you can't have somebody working from an open drawer. There's no way to make change without telling the system to take a certain amount of money and give back a certain amount of money. So at the end of the day, if the report on the AccuCycler doesn't match the report on your POS station, you've got a problem. And you've got PIN numbers of each person who's been in the system that day. So it also alerts you to how much cash is in the system at any given time. It can even send you alerts on your phone. Hey, store number 2 is low on $1 bills. There's no more counting at the beginning or the end of the shift. There's no more time spent on that. And we've seen on the ROI, I just did an ROI analysis for a dispensary chain yesterday, actually. And based on the loss that they have, and this is realized loss, I'll get to that in a second, but they're going to make their return on investment in a year after buying these things. So this is going to be so helpful to them. It's going to streamline. Their employees are going to be spending time helping customers and making the line move faster, because it receives the cash and counts change back faster than a human can do. And so there's time spent that those employees are spending their time helping customers instead of counting the register at the end of the day, and the margin of human error is gone. Plus, there's no more counterfeits. There's not somebody going, I gave you a $20 bill when they gave you a 10. You won't have any of that anymore.
That makes me excited just from the accounting side of like, that's great. But Kathy, you actually use this in your store, so I'm gonna have to come visit you. But how do you like it? How has this changed your accounting?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I can tell you the first day that we used it, at the end of the night when we reconciled the machine, we had a 17-cent variance, and it was human error, $1, and for one transaction, 83 cents for the other. We found it within 5 minutes, and we have not had a variance since. And it was like a typing entry. It was $96. They typed 95, for example. But once we're integrated with our point of sale, as Melissa mentioned, they're working on, we'll eliminate that possibility for human error. And it's going to be even better. You know, we used to spend, and I'm not kidding, we spent hours counting money every single day. And having the #1 store in Mississippi, previously the #1 store in Oklahoma. And it's just, especially when you have many stores, it's so much labor going into just making sure that the number's right. And now at the end of the day, we unload the box, throw it in a bag, and it goes to the bank in the morning. We don't count money anymore. And I can't stress enough how amazing that is in a dispensary.
Do you finance the machines? Because once they buy it, it's theirs, right?
Once they buy it, it's theirs. So we do offer financing. They're not as cheap as a cash drawer, for sure, you know. But we also do an ROI analysis for anybody who's interested. You tell us how many shifts you have, how many cashiers per shift, how many days of the year you're open, and we can factor in all of that, and then show you how long it will take you to get your money back on it. And we do offer financing through a third-party company. The other thing with ROI that you won't see on our calculator is there's going to be unrealized ROI. There's a lot of customers, and what we saw this in Europe, we're just now, like Kathy's saying, now it's finally coming to the United States. Many customers in Europe said they actually made more. They were seeing their sales increase slightly because there is no more possibility of working from an open drawer. And then there were also things where maybe you'd say, you would round it down, maybe, oh, just give me $12 if it's $12.37 or something. Oh, just give me $12. Sometimes people would do that, even if it's just a store owner, just to make it easy. But now all of a sudden there's this change. It's counting every single cent. And that they were seeing an increase in revenue in that, and also in the fact that the whole cash system is closed.
Sorry, I keep
Is
taking
leasing
it.
an option at all, Melissa?
Yeah, there's a leasing option, but it's not really ideal. The financing option is better because it's like leasing a car. Then at the end, you're paying, if you lease it, you're paying every month, and then at the end it's not yours. Whereas if you finance it for whatever, let's say 3 years, then when the term is up, you own the machine. And at that point, the only thing you're paying for is if there's an issue, there's a service technician that needs to come out. If it's something that's not covered under warranty, or if the warranty is expired, then, there's a cost of repair, but that's, with anything. And then there's a subscription, there's an optional subscription to the software, which I spoke about earlier, where you can log in remotely and see your, how much cash is in every single tower or every single AccuCycler you have at any given time.
Do you have any data on like what the lifespan of these things are? I mean, because I get a new car You know, I don't stay in the same car all the time. And the technology that's advancing is so rapid right now. I'd say in 3 years, they're going to have a newer, better one that, you know, I don't know. I just see a leasing thing on these machines as being, because these things are in every bank and every institution, Lowe's, Home Depot already, right? I mean, it's the same similar system.
It's the same components. And we are seeing these things in the field for 10 years, and they're very robust. They're very well made. Obviously, there's certain maintenance that needs to be done. It needs to be kept clean, stuff like that. But let's say you get a 3-year note to finance the equipment, it's going to last much longer than 3 years, especially if you keep it clean, which is easy to do. There's cleaning products that are really easy to use, and we can
Do you
show
guys basically have the same maintenance people that, because we talked to a company called Glory, and they had like nationwide people everywhere. So like, is it pretty easy to get it maintenance? And
yes, we have technicians all over the country. Yeah, we do. And
it's a warranty on it when you first get it?
There's a 1-year warranty. There's included in the price is a 3-year service contract. And then there's a 1-year warranty. At the end of the 3 years, you can always choose to purchase another service contract. Or if you don't want to purchase a contract, you can still call us and say, oh, we need a repair, you know, something's happening. And then we just send a technician out, and just the fee for the repair is just a little bit more than if you had, it's like a warranty, like having a service contract. But those are, like I said before, we're seeing these things in the field for 10 years. So it's going to last longer than the term of the note.
I'm interested to do an ROI study, and I'm thinking of how we might use something like this in one of our stores. And I think of the smaller stores that during busy hours just get packed, and having an extra kiosk for someone to check out on their own, I could see that being helpful for a cash option. You know, we have existing options where you can check out with a credit card, and you can go to the kiosk and order your product, and someone will bring it to you. We don't have a cash option. I'm curious how quickly this machine can process a transaction, a typical transaction, what kind of volume it can handle.
Once you click that they want to pay in cash, like let's say they're going to pay with a card and swipe, or they say, okay, the transaction's complete, and they click cash, the machine kicks on. The average speed to transact, to do that whole cash in and cash out transaction is about 6 seconds. Whereas it takes anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds for a person to take your money and count your change. So it's very quick. And if you have a system like this where it's a self-checkout, a customer's going to a kiosk, they're placing their order, they pay cash, and then they get a number. Is that basically how you're doing it? We do have a self-checkout available like that. It's separate. It's actually has its own POS software. The customer does their order, it gives them a number, and then the order goes to the bud tender behind the counter, and the bud tender gets the order, and then they say, okay, number 42, your order's ready.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you. That was a really good question, actually.
I guess one last little question. Does it also, are we allowed to, can we make credit card transactions on that same unit, that same machine?
We don't do any credit card processing, but what we can do is, if you have a kiosk already that does credit card processing, we can always talk after the show, and I can get information from you about your POS software or whatever. But what ours is, it works alongside that. So it would plug into there's a web API that we use to connect to your POS software, and it's just another form of payment. So instead of hitting credit card, they hit cash.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay, great.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. based on my wireless experience, so is this using Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or NFC, number one? And number two, do you accept crypto at this particular point?
It's Wi-Fi. If somebody were to accept crypto, that would be out of our scope. We just do the cash handling.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna have to
Thank
change
you.
that, Melissa. We're gonna have to work on that. Everybody.
Okay,
Yes.
well, you know what? That's good to know that there's a call for it. So yes, let's talk about that later too.
I agree. I think that'd be a wonderful thing to throw in there if you can, if the software can do that. That'd be great.
Okay, let me write that down.
Yeah, there's a fun fact too, Melissa. There was recently a study done. I believe it was out of St. John's College, or I can't remember the college. They recently did a study where they were analyzing the different industries and the way that entrepreneurs and builders in those industries whether they use cannabis or not based on industry, right? So that was basically the premise of the article or the research that they had done. And blockchain technologies was the very highest at 92.3% of the test subjects in the that were entrepreneurs in that industry, and like also using cannabis products on a regular basis. So it's a very high. I mean, and from my experience, also, the blockchain and cannabis are very coexisting industries that they work very well together. So yeah, definitely something you should look into, and I know there'd be a lot of crypto-based communities that would love to see that.
Well, I am definitely going to be looking into that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I may, real quick, just to jump in as a kind of crossover attorney and in both industries, as well as being in crypto since 2013, actually. Stable coins, especially USDC, is a good one to add. It's a very easy integration. It is fully regulated and compliant in the US as well as globally. And I think it would be a very low reach and low hanging fruit for people because people in the crypto and blockchain community are very familiar with stable coins. So
Okay.
Melissa, if there's one you'd want to integrate, that would be that one to start. And there are tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of liquidity behind it. So it's not going anywhere, and it's pegged to the US dollar with very, very low, I think 1/1000th to 1/100th of a cent variance daily. So you're not going to really lose or gain anything there. So it's a very safe and reachable token that people are familiar with to integrate into the system. So just a little word of advice there.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to know this.
That's great advice. Do we have any other questions or comments for Melissa? Not at this time. Okay, let's go ahead and introduce Kathy. Kathy is the owner of Uptown Funk Dispensary. Kathy, tell us about your dispensary and if you're looking for investors, advisors, or partnerships.
Yeah, so Uptown Funk is kind of my favorite project that I have going right now. We have the #1 dispensary in the state of Mississippi. We're located in Jackson on the north side of Hinds County. We have about a dozen employees and just recently hired a GM from a big box chain. He had previously been a regional manager. I'm not sure if I can say where he worked, but but he's bringing some big talent to our store, and we're really excited to see the growth that we'll have with him at the helm. And the reason that I brought him in is actually I'm getting ready, crossing my fingers, find out on Monday if I will win a dispensary license in the state of Kentucky. If I do get a store there, it will be located in Georgetown, and I have a local partner. And so we're very, very excited about that and hopeful that we'll have good news next week. Yeah, that's kind of what's on my plate currently. And I'm also interested in new projects in other states, existing or potential projects. And I'm always keeping an eye out to see what states are legalizing with favorable structure.
That's wonderful.
How did you
Go ahead,
get
go ahead.
from accounting to owning or opening dispensaries? What's your story there?
Well, I got started in 2012 and I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business management and accounting, and also won the license lottery in Washington State for one of the first of 226 dispensaries that were opened there. And so I have been in the space really because of that. And that opened many, many doors for me to expand and consult and open companies in other locations. And so I've just been kind of all over the country and very, very active in the space. It's been a wonderful almost 13 years now.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Do we have any other questions for Kathy? So basically what I'm hearing, Kathy, is you are interested in partnering with other potential dispensary startups in different states. And I didn't catch, though, if you are looking for investors at all. Is you or your team looking for investors?
Well, for the Kentucky project, I am the investor, and I'm going to be guiding my partner there with launching hopefully the first and best store in that state. And I'm interested in similar partnerships elsewhere. If there are people who are considering opening a store or their state's getting ready to legalize, do reach out to me. I could bring expertise and financing to the table. And if it's a larger project, then we would want to bring in additional investors for that.
Wonderful, thank you. Where can our audience reach you at?
The best place to reach me would be by email, and that would be Kathy, Kathy, at uptownfunkcc.com.
Thank you so much for joining us today and coming to support Melissa and the AccuCycler. Melissa, can you tell our audience where they can reach you at?
Yes, you can reach me at Missy M, MISSYM, at ASUSAINC.com. Or you can go to Asahi Seiko USA.com and reach us through the website, and we'll reach out and we'll contact you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We appreciate you being here. Last but not least, let's welcome Anthony Finno, our good friend, longtime supporter, Cannabis OG. Welcome, Anthony.
Hi, well, thank you. I'm not sure I'm a cannabis OG. You know,
Cannabis
there's some folks that have been doing this for decades. Usually they're, but they're at a farm somewhere far, far away. Those are the OGs, really.
So you're the mini OG.
I'm like the new school OG. Like I've been around since 2017, which was sort of still early, I guess, but not nearly as long as some folks. But happy to be here with you guys, and excited to chat with you a little bit about some important topics that I thought were relevant to what's going on in the world today in cannabis. And there's three areas I wanted to chat about. One, which is how to navigate a challenging fundraising capital markets landscape, how we can use data and AI to grow our businesses, and how we're integrating all of this to determine where to locate new stores. So is there any place you'd like to start, Crystal?
No, take it away.
Okay. All right. So I thought it would be helpful. The capital markets in cannabis, as you all know, have been challenged for quite some time. It's been several years where investors have been tight on, investing money, mainstream investors as well as even institutional investors. And there's lots of reasons why that might be the case. I'm not going to get into why those are the case, but this is the environment that we're dealing with. And there were several decisions that we made early in this process that I think went a long way, and I wanted to just share that with everyone. First of all, making sure that our books and records were accurate, that numbers were reflected correctly across documents throughout the organization, that all of our agreements were tight and signed and in place. All of this information was important to shore up and make sure it was accurate. That is not only financial information, but also company information. So organizing that information, putting it into a format that was easy for an investor to look at, or for us to refer back to, was sort of a baseline critical aspect, is to get all of those things in order. And then after that, it became really a process of studying the capital markets and understanding, okay, what's our strategy here? What's our capital strategy going forward? And what we found was that equity investments were few far in between, and there were a lot more debt investments occurring in the marketplace. And for those kinds of lenders, they're really concerned about cash flow. And I think our business helped stand out a little bit because we are a cash flowing business. We are profitable. So that was a story that the lenders want to hear. They want to know, can you afford to pay us back? Or do you have a track record of paying back another lender? And so we checked those boxes. So we organized our books and records. We made sure that everything was on point numbers wise. We made sure our agreements were on point. Then it was about studying the capital markets, determining that lending is probably the best way for us to go. If we borrow money today and we grow our business, then we'll conceivably have a higher valuation in the future, at which point, if we need additional capital, we'd be better served to sell equity at a future time with a higher valuation. So effectively using the debt to increase our value before we take on additional equity. So we made that decision. It then became about identifying what characteristics are really important to this subsector of investors, right? These private lenders, which is where we narrowed down into what's really important to them, what makes them write a check, what are the things that they're going to have to deliberate internally about. And so because these are lenders, we focused on things like, how healthy is our debt service coverage ratio existing? And if we added more debt, what would that be? What's our fixed charge coverage ratio? What would that be if we took on more debt? Having this kind of information at hand made it very easy to have conversations with lenders and cut to the chase quickly. So when we made the pitch to the investors, it was super straightforward, telling them exactly what they wanted to hear. And so there was never like a delayed conversation or maybe, who knows, let's get back to you. It was like yes or no. That really streamlined the process so that we were not sort of all over the place talking with everybody and sharing our information with everybody. The other part was that, while we were in the process of shoring up our books and records and identifying our best capital strategy, what we were able to do is also refine our narrative on why now? Why is this something that we should be doing today, not tomorrow? And so clarifying your why now, making sure that it's really compelling, and more specifically, speaking to that investor community that you're targeting. That's really important, connecting those dots, going into those conversations, knowing that the why now is going to strike a chord with that listener is critical, right? It gets them listening right away. And that's what you want. You want their attention. And it also allowed us to identify metrics that we already had in our business that are really notable, that are worth sharing with somebody. So for example, in the early research, we determined that our top 1,300 customers were spending an average of $114 a visit and shopping 3 times per month. That is a great statistic to share with an investor right out of the gate. That's the kind of thing that gets people's attention. We're at 450,000 transactions since 2021. That is a figure that automatically tells an investor, these guys have experience. They've done this before. So that question mark goes right out of their mind. It's no longer a possible red flag. Do these guys have experience? Yeah, 450,000 transactions later, we've got experience. We even know that we've got some loyalty, right? Because we have a statistic we can show you. We're generating money. We're generating profitability. These are the kinds of things they want to hear right away to get their attention. The other thing that was probably one of the most important pieces of this is after we've gotten through the process of shoring up our books and records, organizing it in formats that are digestible, easily digestible, identifying our why now, it really became about what does our demand model look like? How do we project demand? And so this was critical because this aspect is where investors are going to throw curveballs. They're going to ask questions that are going to be difficult to answer. And the stronger your modeling, the more bulletproof it is, you're going to have more confidence going into these conversations. And no matter what they say to you, you're going to be able to bat it down because you've got the data to back it up. If you're using reliable data to make your projections and they're thorough methodologies, it's almost impossible to poke holes in. They can try, but you'll be prepared for that when it happens. So building models to go to market, I call them go to market models, but they can also be called demand models. It helps you get a sense of, okay, if I put a dispensary in this location, what can I expect from foot traffic? And how does that translate into revenue and profitability? These kinds of things, having this laid out clearly is super important for them to get confident about the future. So in one hand, organizing our books and records gets them confident about the past, right? Sharing with them these highly thought through methodologies about the future gets them confident about the future. And the present moment is why now, why this is critical at this moment in time. The why now that we used, our focus is on the Northeast, and about half of the stores that we're planning on rolling out over the next 5 years, there's about 30 total that we're rolling out over the next 5 years. Half of those are in New York City. So Brooklyn, Manhattan, or Queens. And in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, they're giving, New York State is giving out lots of licenses. But what there's very limited of is great locations. Great locations are few far in between. And once someone gets a location, locks it down, that's it. They've got proximity protection for however long their lease is for, and they own that neighborhood. If they market effectively in that neighborhood, they can dominate that market. So for us, it was a matter of how quickly can we get to the best locations. And another aspect of this modeling was determining location. It's like not so easy to do, right? Because you have a world of possibilities. You take even a city like New York, you could go into a million different places, but where do we want to go? We don't just want to be looking everywhere. We want to have a very specific idea of where the best locations are for Dazed. And so we developed a 36-point model that we run an address through. The address gets put through our modeling, and then it kicks out results. And based on those results, we either give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And it makes it so much easier to identify locations. Instead of having brokers running all over the city, you have the brokers focus on this neighborhood between these blocks. That's where we want to be. And it's important because the brokers then can focus on off-market deals as well as the on-market deals so that they're not scattered all over the city, right? Or wherever the state, wherever you're planning on setting up. So those models not only help us determine how profitable or how much revenue a particular location might generate or how much foot traffic, it also helps us to find where the most concentrated areas are for our audience. So all of these aspects play really well into the conversations that you're going to have with investors. And last but not least, I'll just touch on data and AI because this is obviously still new for most businesses. And what we've learned is that data really is best used to support our decision making. So long gone are the days when we have to make decisions with a gut feeling or an intuition or experience. We can take our intuition, our knowledge, our intelligence, and we can use that. We can use data to build upon our decision making. So it's not just about what we know from our experience. It's about what is the data telling us, and then how do we use our insights to refine those decisions. So there's two quotes about data that I think are so. It kind of tell a lot about why it's important. Carly Fiorina, she ran Hewlett Packard for years, and she says the goal is to turn data into information and information into insights. It's just data. That's all that it is. It's numbers, zeros and ones, and it's like, what do you do with that? You take it, it turns into information. You use that for insights. This is what helps, helps take what could otherwise be an unknown or an uncertain decision into a decision that we really feel good about. The other quote that I like is the one from Peter Drucker. He says, you can't manage what you can't measure. And this is also like, the way I think about data is every point of information that will come through our business, whether it's consumer facing or back of the house, every single piece of information is a piece of data that can be measured and shared, across the organization. So we're shoring up our data. It's a big part of our future. It's like, how do we collect data more efficiently and how do we interpret that data? So in a lot of ways, data was used to develop our models that we use to interface with investors. And then AI, of course, AI helps to refine your narratives. It helps you to clarify your messaging. Simple things, right? It can help you to digest complex data sets quickly. So it saves time, refines your messaging. I mean, this is basic stuff that AI can do today. It doesn't require a degree. We can all use this in our business for even like communications, like you're sending an email out to a handful of investors, use the AI to help you refine that messaging however you need it to sound, given your situation. So anyway, I wanted to just touch on those topics, and I'd love to take questions if anybody has any. Go for it, Amanda.
I try to find the raised hand, but I'm like, I'll just do it this way. I was going to interrupt you, but you were on such a good roll. If I had like just an ounce of your brain with the information you had, I'd be so happy. I did have a question. How do you present all this information and data to a potential investor? Do you have them sit down and do like a slideshow or a stack of papers with a bow on it? Does it depend on the person?
It's a great question, because I had written a note about talking about this exact thing. A lot of times people assume that the deck is the all end be all. And I've seen decks with like so much information in them. I don't know how anybody even gets through a deck like that. So the purpose of, let me just say this, and this is my opinion. The purpose of a deck is simply to be an icebreaker. That's it. There should be nothing in there that is confidential, nothing that you feel uncomfortable sharing, or that you're worried your friend is going to share to the wrong person. Forget all that. Your deck should only be a handful of pages. I'm talking 5 to 7 pages max. Okay, that's including your cover and your end page, right? So in the middle, it's the what's our track record of success? Like, how did we get to where we are, right? Highlighting the notable, newsworthy sort of headlines. Then it's like, why now? Right? We talked about this earlier. Having the why now in there is really critical. Talking about the size of your market is important. Well, these are all high level information that's not intended to have an investor like write a check on the spot. All that it's intended to do is get you in the door. That's it. It's an icebreaker to get you in a conversation where you can start to share relevant information that's important to that investor. So I encourage folks to put together beautiful decks, but they've got to be brief, short, and compelling. Boom. That's it. Something you can share with somebody that's going to close the meeting. That's what you want. Close the meeting, because any investor, I don't care if it's equity or debt, the way that they're going to analyze your company is not through the deck. They're going to be looking at your P&Ls, your balance sheets, your cash flow statements. That's what's going to be important. They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at your history, what you've done, all that stuff. That's what's important to them, not what's in the deck. The deck is just the icebreaker. So, Amanda, to answer your question, the data room is where you store the sensitive information that you share with folks that have signed an MNDA or their NDA. They have access to that information. They're going to spend their time to do that after you've already spoken with them. So the deck gets you in the room. The conversation should be brief. You don't need to be on the phone for more than 15 minutes on the first call. You're busy. They're busy. Give them what they need. And hopefully you're going to close the next meeting. It's a process. So be prepared for a process. It's several meetings before you even get to a meaningful conversation about maybe terms. And if you're speaking with a lender, the goal is to get a term sheet. That's what you want. That's the goal. If you're speaking with equity investors, the goal is to get them to start writing checks. And I think the best way to do that is to brief decks, detailed, over the top data rooms where everything they could possibly want is there. So that's how I would present the information.
Just plant the seed and you're watering it the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So it bears fruit.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's so tempting to be anxious and to be nervous and to like want to hurry the process along. It doesn't work like this. When anytime anybody, even the richest guy, person, woman, man on earth, when they go to write a check, they have like a gut feeling before they write that check. It doesn't just happen. Nobody just writes checks willy-nilly. So you have to understand that it's going to take time for them. But if you've given them the information that they need, you don't have to spend a lot of time on that. You can spend a smaller amount of time nurturing the relationship, keeping in communication, giving them updates as they happen, and you'll be surprised over the months or the years, they will come back around. The hard sell doesn't work. It's more like, you want to invest with me. Here's the information, and I'm happy to talk with you when you're ready. Richie.
Hey, Anthony. Just want to say, first of all, Anthony's given us a ton of amazing information. I love the comment about AI, using AI, even for simple things like sending an email, cleaning an email up. So one thing that Anthony said was, I was curious, especially in the New York City market. I mean, when it comes to those data points that you're putting together, obviously I assume rent is a big component of it. New York City's rent is very expensive, I imagine. But for most other dispensaries or outside like a New York City, one component that I always hear about, that people tell me about, is like when scouting dispensary locations specifically, what else is next to the dispensary? Like, what's around it? For example, there's a dispensary in Portland, Oregon, where it's next to like a liquor store, a Taco Bell, and all these other things. And that location is always busy. And it's a small footprint store. But because it's next to other, liquor store and Taco Bell, it already has a lot of traffic that it's driving to it naturally because people are already in the area. Versus some dispensaries that I've seen that are more remote, maybe they don't have a good parking lot, maybe they're on a one-way road and it's difficult for people to park. But I was just curious, like when it comes to those data points, do you guys look at like, okay, what else is around this store, right? Like the other example is like when I was in New York in September, looking at Travel Agency, which is on Fifth Avenue, and looking at that store and being like, the foot traffic here is crazy, but I imagine the rent is absurdly expensive. So I was just wondering, like, are there other data points that go into like what else is around the area that drives foot traffic? Because there's other, a mall or shopping strips, things like that. I was curious about.
That's a wonderful question. So first thing I would say is everyone's business is a slightly different target audience. So you first have to understand real clearly about what that audience is. If you're a startup and you don't have an audience or you don't have customers yet, you should be thinking about, who am I going to be talking to? Who am I going to be speaking to? What can I bring to the retail scene that is unique and also is going to serve an audience, clearly serve this particular audience? So that's important. If you have an existing dispensary and you want to open more dispensaries, you should study who your audience is, how they behave, where they live, what they do for work, how they behave when they shop. What does a journey look like for them, a customer journey look like for them? So the smarter you can get about your audience goes a long way to determining locations. So once we were able to take our data from the existing, at that time, 300 and something thousand transactions, and we could extract some pretty good data about who our audience is. Once we had a pretty good idea of who they were, what we then did was we took the 200 most populated, and this is for our business. This is going to be different for other business, but for our business, we took the 200 most densely populated zip codes in the country. And then from that list, we narrowed it down based on the concentration of our particular audience. So we know who our audience is. We were able to then go to that data and identify, okay, which zip codes have the highest concentration of our audience. As far as like, once you narrow it down to like a zip code, let's say, you're then going to look closer at that area and you're going to see where competition is. You're going to see where the main strips are. You're going to see where the national tenants are. You're going to see where transportation is. You're going to see where the foot traffic is. Those are going to be the details that determine, okay, where exactly in this zip code do I want to be? And when you get that specific, you'll find that there's not a lot of options. It's pretty clear. It's like, I'm going to either be on this block or that block, and anywhere else doesn't really make sense for my business. Yeah. So you really should be thinking about who your audience is, where you can find your audience most efficiently, where you think you can dominate a market, given your audience and the proximity of other locations. And sometimes if you look closely, you'll see that, there's several dispensaries there, but those dispensaries probably aren't going to compete in this particular area that I'm focused on. So it doesn't, just because there's a lot of dispensaries doesn't mean it's a bad location. And just because there's no competition doesn't mean it's a good location either. It really comes back to who your audience is, where can I find this audience, and how easily can I reach them?
Yeah, interesting. You know, one example, just to let everybody know, there's in Eastern Oregon, there's a small town and called Ontario, and it's right on the Idaho border of Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho is 20 minutes away. There's 14 dispensaries in this one small town, but 90% of the business is people coming from Idaho, which probably will be the last city in the United States to legalize. So one of these stores is doing about $1 million a month in revenue from strictly Boise, Idaho traffic. So what's interesting is when Idaho does legalize, it's like, what happens to that, to all those 14 stores that are in that one area that rely on that out-of-state, customers? And I hear the same thing about Michigan with people coming from Wisconsin, same thing, and people coming from Texas and Oklahoma. So it's just kind of interesting that even location, even in a zip code, matters just as much as it can matter in a different state next to a state that isn't recreationally legal. And there's a lot of business that comes from that. And there's all kinds of different examples, but like I said, those are just two, with Oregon and Idaho, and then Michigan and Wisconsin. But the location, that's it, just like you're saying, the location, having those data points is really interesting. I think that's a super helpful piece of information for everybody that's listening right now.
And Richie, just to follow up on the other question you had, which was about how do you navigate rent, and is it worth paying up for the rent? I mean, this is a good question. I mean, you take Union Square, for example. Our rent there is $70,000 a month.
Wow.
We're turning 600 transactions a day. So there you go, right? It kind of makes sense. And once again, coming back to the importance of location, if I'm in a location, let's say I have a location that I've identified, and I know that if I go on the main strip, rent's going to be $10,000 a month. Or if I go a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit, off the main strip, maybe rent is $5,000. So it's half the rent, let's say a block away. I'm not so sure that's a good deal. Yeah. $5,000 can be generated in a morning of business. So I'd rather know for certain that I'm going to be okay. Foot traffic is going to continue here no matter what happens. I'd rather pay the extra $5,000 a month in that case to be where I know I'll be protected. Because in our opinion, the biggest risk factor that we face in a city like New York is the regulations changing. Currently, the regulations say 1,000 feet door to door is your proximity protection. If they came back in 5 years and said, guys, this isn't working, we need to change it to 500 feet. That could be a huge risk factor for us, right? If I'm in the wrong spot in that neighborhood and someone posts up at the corner, all of a sudden all of my projections go out the window. My marketing budget is now uncertain, and I've got to fight to just keep my foot traffic going. So I would rather pay up and pay a little extra for the right location any day of the week.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, appreciate the response. Thanks, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Joseph, you had some good questions before. You got anything else in there?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, not really. So just background. I helped write some of the legislation in Denver a long time ago. I look young. I just turned 42. I'm not that young. But I've been in the industry for a bit, and I think the points you're making are great. Just a couple other points. So you've been talking a lot about what we call front of house, like obviously dispensary sales. This also goes to labs and grows as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just comment on that. So anybody that's in that side of the industry, which is where I primarily operate, um, I'm an attorney that owns like 10 or 11 different businesses around the country. Um, it's important as well, proximity, just so you guys know, it's very important where your redistributing is and where your regional supply and even national distributing supply is. So, we're out of Denver, obviously, but I helped work on the legislation in Minnesota. So we have a nice big foothold in the Midwest and, Chicago as well, and then Washington, Oregon. So anybody that's running, the labs and then the grow ops, same thing. It really does matter where, because different farms and different land cost, it's even more disparate, cost bases sometimes for big farms to get, these guys in. And I think you made a very good point. I agree that if you have a good location, 5, 10, 20 grand a month, especially in New York City, big deal in rent, is going to be offset by a day or two of foot traffic if you're in the right spot. So very good point there. But not really any questions, more just I wanted to make those couple comments on there and thank you for the very insightful, I guess discourse on what you're doing for the dispensaries in the front of house. Because in Denver, oh my God, we're so saturated that it's like you get more shutting down than opening up, and for good reason. It's everybody went, and there was, so many dispensaries in downtown Denver, you couldn't walk 5 feet without being in front of three of them at one point. So, it's good to see that you're thinking this out in a thoughtful and, really productive and analytical manner. So thank you.
No problem. Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point about the other businesses in the vertical. There, we could do an whole episode on that, Crystal and Alan. Maybe Joe can come back and talk more about that, because I think that's really interesting, and I would love to support that conversation, Joseph. So maybe we can do that.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
Anthony.
That would be fun. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Great questions, Joseph. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, can you please tell our audience where they can reach you at?
Sure. So Dazed, DAZED.fun is the website, dazed.fun. You can reach me directly at success@dazed.fun, success@dazed.fun. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and happy to chat. I mean, I love sharing information. I feel the rising tide lifts all boats. The industry is still in that place where it feels good to share as much as you possibly can. And I hope that never ends in cannabis. I think one of the things that attracted me to cannabis initially is the fact that it's a social, it stimulates social conversations and collaboration. Like, there's something really beautiful about the plant in that way that I think is so healthy for society. Whether people use it for relief or recreation is irrelevant. It's if it's good for them and they feel good about it, they should have that. So I'm excited to be in the industry and talk about that.
Thank you, Anthony, so much for being here today. Thank you to all of our other speakers. We are going to have Alan close in prayer, and then if everyone would please stay on, we're going to continue running live to tell our audience, give our audience a little chance to, for our panelists, sorry, to tell our audience a little bit about their companies. Let's go ahead, Alan, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads and have a quick prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for another week of a CryptoCannaVerse Show, where we bring on entrepreneurs in the cannabis space, the cash handling space, and dispensaries, knowing that you are with them, and we trust in you, and knowing that we have wonderful, great people that comes on to share about their businesses. Help us in ways that we trust in you, that you provide. You provide, whether it is capital funding, provide us with a dispensary location, provide us with people that can help us grow and inspire us to do great things to further your kingdom. So God, just continue to believe that everything is in your own control, that we, as long as we surrender full control to you, you will provide us at your perfect timing. So continue to bless us in all things that we do. So I pray for our holiday season as we spend time with our family and friends. May we also remember that you send your only begotten Son to die on the cross for us so we can have eternal life. So thank you, Lord, so much for your only begotten Son. And may we have a happy holidays. And I pray all this in Christ, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Alan. Isn't it a wonderful country where we can come together and talk about cannabis, crypto, and God? Wow. We are so lucky. We are so blessed. With that being said, let's go ahead and start down at the bottom. Nathaniel Cook, please introduce yourself and tell us about your company and if there's anything that you are looking for or you need.
Yeah, my name is Nathaniel Cook. I'm actually a partner. My other partners are on here. I'll let them introduce themselves, but we're part of NC Management. We're kind of a one-stop shop for white glove services for anybody trying to get into the space. That's a traditional business looking for, anything crypto related. So we kind of set people up with the right contacts, with the right developers, help with funding, just advising, just pretty much, all across the board. And we found that kind of that hands-on approach really helps people, kind of guide them more than just pointing at a link on a website to say, hey, read up and, figure out what you're getting into, because it moves at a much faster pace. So yeah, our services are available to anybody that needs them. We're more than happy to hop on calls and discuss, but yeah, it's kind of us.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Kenneth.
Yes, ma'am. So once again, Nate is one of the managing partners at NC Management. He kind of gave you an idea of what we do. I also run a full stack development agency called BlockSafe Solutions. We do full stack blockchain development. So that's everything from integrating crypto payments into different systems, up to building complex staking mechanics, decentralized finance. We've even worked on some consulting on some blockchains for government contracts and things like that, but pretty much top to bottom, multi-chain in that area. Across the space, and then I do quite a few other things in the space as well. I do some consulting for different projects just because I'm old in the space. I'm turning 35 in February, but in crypto I've been around since 2013, so that's super old when you're talking about blockchain technologies. So I like to help out new people in the space and do consulting, and I'll jump on calls for advisory and things like that pretty often as well.
Thank you, Kenneth. Mr. Clayton Cruz. You're on mute, Clayton.
Okay, could not
There you go.
unmute. Also, I've lost my voice a little bit. I've been talking all day. So I am a partner at NC Management with both Kenny and Nate. And they already told you what all of that does, but also have a law firm with someone he's not on the call right now. And we do primarily asset protection and privacy planning for high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals in the crypto and blockchain space. Yeah. So to kind of do the other side of what Joe does. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's very rare that we get to have three partners in a company together, and I would just like it is Christmas, so would you mind, Kenny, pointing out one characteristic that you love about Nate and Clayton?
Oh yeah, I could surely do that. Yeah, so I appreciate these guys, both of them, because I'm notoriously a difficult individual to work with because and no, I see you laughing over there, Joseph. No, it's not because I have a terrible personality or anything. I promise you, it's because I am very focused in the lane that I understand, which is client relations. I'm a salesperson. That's where I've always been, and so because of that, I'm very high impact. I'm very quick. I don't like to spend time on the back end items, and because of that. I overlook quite a bit. So for Nate especially, Nate is one of the most calm, collected individuals I've ever met in the space. We could have an alien invasion going on, or whatever, and Nate would be monotone and be like, okay, this is what we need to do next. That type of attitude, and it's that calmness and that we're completely different sides of the coin, right? And I think that having differing opinions and differing outlooks really helps a partnership, especially in business. So I appreciate Nate for correcting me often when I'm trying to move too fast or when I've done something that isn't quite correct. And so I appreciate that. With Clayton, I think with Clayton, what I appreciate most about Clayton is just, I don't even know how to put this exactly into words, but I think of Clayton almost as a big brother, right? So I have 6 siblings, but I'm the oldest of all of them. So I never got to experience having that elder sibling to kind of like, look out for you and, tell you when you're being an idiot and make sure that you're not going to go to jail for doing something stupid. And that's what Clayton does for all of us here at the firm, is he makes sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We're not, we're doing everything that we should. And then, he's just an easy guy to talk to. He's really easy just to say, hey, I'm going on this week. There's been something in personal life that's been, making me slow in the work this week, and being able to talk about it and those types of things. So that's a couple things. I could go on all day. I love these guys. I actually, we very rarely get to see each other, just a couple times a year at conferences because we live so far apart. But I think we talk to each other almost on a daily basis, and they're not only my partners but my best friends. So
thank you, Kenny. Nate, what are your thoughts with Kenny and Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, Kenny said it best, but I'll just kind of quickly sum it up. I think, the one thing that I bring to the table that I appreciated with them when I found them was, it took a long time to find the right people to work with in this space. Not, there's a ton of great people out there who bring different walks of life and experience to the table, but finding the people who mesh very well, who have that same work ethic that you do, very, very hard to develop over time. It takes something to foster, and even then sometimes it doesn't pan out. But I think what we three found together is that we work kind of symbiotically in a system, and we complement each other, and that's the hardest thing to find as as you build a company out. So I just appreciate all their experience that they bring to the table, because like I'm learning every day, and I, from what I think I would learn, just on my own, it's tenfold with people around you that brings something to the table that you don't have. And it's been a blessing to work with them. Can't say anything more better about it.
Thank you, Nate. Clayton.
Well, it's easy to be the last person. So they tolerate and put up with me. That's a big part of it. I'm outspoken, opinionated, have very little filter most of the time. So if you can find one, let alone two people in the same place that can put up with that for a long period of time, I don't think it's anything short of a blessing.
Thank you, Clayton. I appreciate you guys all playing along. I desperately appreciate it. Kathy, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
My name is Kathy Hartwell, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've participated in the cannabis industry in 5 different states, and my current favorite project is Uptown Funk in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm looking forward to potentially expanding into Kentucky, and I'm open to hearing pitches for other locations, or potentially having conversations with investors in my projects for anyone who may be interested. And the best way to reach me is by email, and that would be Kathy, Kathy, at uptownfunkcc.com. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Crystal. I appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you, Kathy. Richie, please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Richie Royce. I'm founder and CEO of Plug.io. We are the largest cannabis deal platform in the US and Canada, and we're actually launching in Q1 of next year, so coming up here really soon. So yeah, that's pretty much me. I live between Portland, Oregon and Scottsdale, Arizona. So I've been in the cannabis industry just over a little 2 years, but have been around it in the ecosystem, being in Oregon, living in Oregon most of my life, and growing up with a lot of people that are around the cannabis industry. And so I've always been fascinated by it, and more been on the technology side for the last 5 years. So great to be here. Super. This has been a great show, and appreciate Crystal and the team for putting on this. And yeah, it's been awesome, and it's glad to be here, and glad I found it. And this is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Richie. Appreciate you. David Whiting. You're on mute. David, you're still on mute. While you're trying to figure that out, let's go ahead and move up to Madison.
Madison Burris, DispoSmoke.com. We have a dispensary in Kentucky looking to expand outwards and getting ready to have a second location, willing to talk to others about investing in more locations. My email is Madison, MADISON @DispoSmoke.com. And thank you so much for the opportunity to come here.
You are most welcome, Madison. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Frank Galvin.
My name is Frank Galvin. I'm the founder and CEO of White Eagle Insurance. Got involved in it, never even had anything to do with cannabis. Had no idea. That was a different space for me. My son spent quite a bit of time in the military, came back a war hero, airborne ranger, Delta, Green Berets, everything else, and came back and said, Dad, we ought to look at the insurance, setting up an insurance company for these guys that really need it. I had no clue what the heck we were getting into, never even smoked a joint, still haven't. But we ended up traveling. We ended up on the road and went up to Washington, all over Oklahoma, obviously, and Michigan. And we just toured, like, I think between 500 and 700 farms. And we got to talk to all the owners and found out what they were needing. And we started realizing that they were really getting taken advantage of by the insurance companies. So we ended up through a couple of friends of ours, being in the industry, we had a contact with Lloyd's, and next thing you know, I got myself talking to all the board of directors of Lloyd's, or a couple of them anyway, board of directors of Lloyd's, and we kind of let them know, hey, listen, that's not fair. These guys are paying a lot of money, and there's no claims. So what's going on there? Why are you charging them so damn much? And that opened it up, and that's how we ended up starting our own little insurance company. That's what we specialize in. While most of the people are getting out of the insurance business, cannabis insurance business, we're kind of expanding. We're in like 22 states right now, mainly Maine, Oklahoma, California. I don't know what the word is. 68 years old. I don't have to be doing this, but I've really enjoyed it. And it's been very gratifying. I guess that's the correct word. Being able to go in there and people are like just trying to stay in business and they're paying $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year for some little policy that they're never going to file a claim on. And we come in and say, hey, you can go get it for $15,000, $2,000 a year, for God's sakes. So that's how it all started. And that's where we're at. And obviously, being in the Bay Area here, in fact, my office is Al Davis' old office from the Raiders. You get to know a lot of people. And so we understand by seeing what the heck is going on there, what's going on in the industry, what's happening. Right now, it's a lot of turmoil. A lot of people are getting killed. A lot of people are losing their business. You guys see what happened in California. They turned it into a prosperous industry, and now it's all black market. So, that's where we try to come in and help and see what we can do.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you. David. Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a new phone. Having a problem working my new phone. So yeah, David Whiting, founder and CEO of 4 Esports Network. We are working on gaming, entertainment, and providing educational gaming tournaments. And I came with the idea because like I said, I was doing events, and I went to the 3XP Decentral event in Pasadena early 2023, and I saw the gaming industry and the appeal of the gaming industry, and even how after COVID and during COVID, gaming really exploded. So I went to that event, and I saw the industry, interviewed some people, and I was really impressed by it. So I started to look into it, researching, and I thought that it'd be a great opportunity to create a 4 esports organization that focused on helping bring people together and create a community. And we want to start in Las Vegas, but we want to do other cities. And so I've been putting together a team since January, and now it's December. And now I finally got a pretty good team put together. and now we're moving forward. And now we just put our deck together. We put our sponsorship information. We have the website up. So now we are ready to start approaching some investors and sponsors for what we're doing. I'm out here right now in Las Vegas, checking out some gaming locations, and we're going to be on a call with one of the locations later today. So I'm happy to be here and happy to meet everyone. With the cannabis side, I have some contacts in cannabis, but I'm not really directly have any directly related to the cannabis industry. But I always like to learn, and it's always good to see what people are doing in different industries because they're can always relate it. Cannabis is really related to esports and gaming because a lot of the people in hip hop and a lot of people who are gamers also, partake of cannabis sometimes. So there's a lot of parallels and there's a lot of synergies that I'd like to keep moving forward with. And it's great to be here. Thank you, Crystal and Al.
Thank you, David. Let's go.
Can I ask David a quick question?
Oh, yes, sure.
Yeah, and David, and by the way, David was super helpful in the early goings when we were trying to generate interest for our borrowing needs, and he was really helpful with that. So thanks, David, for doing that. You were a gentleman. One of the questions I have, you mentioned, a few years ago, I contemplated developing a cannabis brand for gamers. Do you happen to know any data that you have regarding what percentage of gamers will consume cannabis while gaming?
Oh boy, I wish I knew that. But that's a great question. That's a great question. That's something that I will try to find more about. Like I said, I've been starting to look into and doing some of this research. So, but something like that, I really don't have a empirical, information to provide to you. But I know that a lot of and then what I've been researching and a lot of things that I've been looking into is that a lot of the people who are in hip hop and rap and different music genres also are gamers, and those people are also, taking cannabis and enjoying cannabis. I'm not sure if they're doing it at the same time while they're playing, or if they do it, before, or if they do it after. But we're going to start doing some events. We'll have some news on some upcoming events that might involve where we're going to do some things at dispensaries, and so we'll have some more information on that. But I don't have any specific information on research.
Well, I'm interested, David. If you come across interesting data on this particular subject, I'd love to talk about that with you. I still think there's a market there for a product for that audience.
Sure. Yes, me too. Okay, thank you. Sure.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and go over to Darius and then Maurice.
Yes. My name is Darius. I'm the CEO of a blockchain fund. As I said before, I'm a native of California. So I experienced 160,000 square miles and 38 million people as my first cannabis market, dealing with cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, extraction, retail, and delivery when MedMen was still alive. And then I tried to give advice to major cannabis funds like Arcadian and Merida Capital about the future of Web3 and blockchain, but there was no interest there at that time. I ended up becoming the VP of IR for Merida Capital, managing $500 million. We did make investments in Canada. And now I've launched my own fund, ESG focused 506B SPV fund, with a click to invest fund to fund platform. And nicely enough, we have been raising capital for a gaming focused beverage for the last 2 years, partnered with a publicly traded cannabis company. And T-Pain is the focus on that gaming beverage, about to enter 7-Eleven. And we are happy to say that he's bringing a gaming / film studio to Las Vegas, launching tomorrow. And we are bringing an ESTV channel, spreading this content to the world. And the mayor of Las Vegas will be here January 1 to cut the ribbon on the gaming studio here in Las Vegas. So all good in the neighborhood. Thank you, Crystal. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Darius. Congratulations.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Congrats, congrats.
Maurice, what?
Where do I start? Well, I guess I'm the new kid on the block here. My background is mostly in entertainment space, music mostly, and that kind of led me into the cannabis space and CBD space here. See my partner Robert is on the line here with us as well, and that kind of led into some things that I do in the production space with films, with Tyler Perry Studios, the Oprahs, a lot of PR, marketing, branding for a lot of different companies, a lot of doctors that are doing some things on a global scale, as well as just a number of different companies and entities that I try to add value to. So that's a quick little spiel about me. And, I've been knowing Alan for, what has it been? A couple of years now, about a year or two. And we've done some amazing things pretty quickly. So I'm grateful to be here,
Thank you, Maurice. We appreciate you for being here. Let's see here. Alan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry, I got interrupted earlier. She tried calling me. My name is Alan Lau. So grateful to have Crystal being our co-founder at the CryptoCannaVerse Show. I completely remember how we met was, I left my institution. My background was a financial advisor for about 16 years at a private bank. When I left the firm, I wanted to do, pursue some of the passions I had in life and try new different industries. And we stumbled across and met each other, I think, at some sort of financial conference or cannabis conference, and then started networking from there. I quickly learned to surround myself with great mentors. And I would call Crystal one of my mentors. She was so connected to just a lot of different people in different spaces. And to this day, she's so connected to people and sharing with me and educating me about what to do and what not to do. And you should try doing this. Let me introduce you to this person. So from there, I just I would say I built my network behind her, but ultimately meeting wonderful and great people along the way. So grateful to be a co-founder here because I felt like, hey, there's a lot of great people around the world that wants to share about what they're passionate about and what their company is all about. And this was the medium, this was the channel, and this was a way that everyone can come together and share the resources and share their connections and contacts, because it's all about, I always tell Maurice and Darius and David and everyone, this is like your network is your network. So I still believe in that. So happy to be here and happy to meet everyone here. And I know this show was created back in 2022, and we started with just not too many viewers, and we didn't know where God's going to lead us. And look at now. So I'm so grateful for Crystal because she co-founded this with me, and we did some amazing things and brought some amazing people here. So we want to continue to share the love and continue to share, our true faith and what we believe, because like today's verse, Proverbs 3:5, do not lean on our own understanding, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and knowing that God will lead you into the right path, will direct you into the right way, and meeting the right people at the right time. We just have to continue to trust in Him and believe in Him. So thank you so much, and happy holidays to everybody that is out there. Blessed to be here.
Thank you, Alan, for saying those kind words. I really appreciate it. I think the same of you. You are a super connector. You are super smart, and you are always the one that is keeps us focused, moving forward. Maybe not focused, moving forward. I'm the one that helps keep us focused, I think, and you're the one that helps keeping us moving forward. So thank you so much for saying that. Let's go ahead and go up to Amanda. Welcome, Amanda. We can't hear you, Amanda. Okay, let's go on over to.
I think I got it now, but
there we go.
I bumped it. I was just saying thank you for letting us take this time to not just, share with the viewers, but with each other. It's fun to meet all these new faces, and it's all because of you. You brought all these people together, you and Alan, so thank you very much. And everyone knows what a CPA does. We do tax returns for individuals and businesses, bookkeeping and payroll. But something that's different, which maybe not everyone gets to experience, is you might be on the outside and you have to hunt down your CPA. We're a little different. We assign you an individual tax manager who hunts you down and bugs you, which maybe is kind of annoying, but there's some pros and cons, okay? Because if you have questions too, they're also easy to get a hold of. So that's Haro CPA in a nutshell. A bunch of annoying nerds.
Thank you, Amanda. Could you please touch on your nonprofit?
Absolutely. So, luckily, working at Haro CPA, I was able to get help in creating a nonprofit, which is called the Happy Camper Foundation. It is a nonprofit that sends kids to camp, which seems kind of small, but camp is like a home for someone who needs a space to be themselves. If you haven't experienced camp, it's hard to explain, but it is life-changing. I was very, very shy before I went to camp, and we want every kid to have a chance to go to any camp they want. They get a hold of us, and we want them to go for free. We don't want money to be the reason they don't get to go to camp and have this experience, and that's at Happy Camper. Foundation.org. You could also donate through that website too.
Thank you, Amanda. We appreciate you being a longtime supporter of the show. Please drop your Happy Founder information in the chat. And let's go on over to Joseph. Welcome.
Thank you. And it's crazy that I just met you guys last week in Miami. Clayton, what's up, man? And thank you for having me on. God, what do I do? A little bit of everything, quite honestly. That's not a joke. I've been in the crypto slash blockchain and cannabis space with my own law firm for 10 years now, which is nuts. And I worked on some legislation before that. Like I said, I've been an attorney since '08. I was always in the business, startup, fintech realm. I had a firm in Colorado that no longer exists, and I won't badmouth, that said I couldn't take cannabis clients in 2013 and 14, and I left. Uh, Made some very good friends in the industry and the space in Denver. Now I'm partial owner of 9 or 10 different companies around the country with hemp and cannabis. We do everything from, from what we call front office of dispensaries, the retail and wholesale shipping to what's more exciting for me. I don't play a chemist. I always tell everybody, I'm not a chemist, but I play one on TV. I can set up a lab from head to toe and get it functional and operational because of what I've learned over the last 10 years. So we do a lot of those. We set those up around the country. We do a lot of import export with other countries. We work a lot with, a lot of the Caribbean nations. We work a lot with South America, and we're kind of onboarding them to the U.S. And we're also dabbling in Ireland and other parts of Europe as well. My passion is really just making sure that businesses run correctly. I'm not one of those attorneys that has a waterfall in his front office. I literally work in my home. My best friends and my paralegals are my dog and my cat, and it's great. So I don't charge, a crazy amount of money for my work. I just make sure that companies have enough capital to run and they get up and running and they're successful. That's more important to me. So, like I said, my law firm is based out of Denver. I'm currently living in Pennsylvania with my very recent wife. We just got married in Costa Rica a few weeks ago, which was awesome. And we are planning to move down there in the next couple of years, which is also great. So I'm working on cannabis and hemp relations with the Costa Rican government right now to kind of set that up. But yeah, those are my passions. I love doing what I do. And I will drop a link for my law firm. If you have any questions, I'm always down to get on the call, get on the phone, help advise, do whatever need be, and make business connections as well. Because I am a business, financial M&A background and a business and tax structuring background. So if anybody needs help setting up their businesses or furthering it, I'm available.
And then Joseph, go ahead and give Jenna a shout out and tell us about her next upcoming fight.
Oh gosh. Okay. So any of you guys in Denver? My wife decided to recently take up, it's what I would call MMA light. It's karate combat. It is a crypto project, but also a legitimate fighting league. She went to Singapore and won her debut fight. She's also fighting at ETH Denver in February, which is going to be great. She's going to have about a 50-person VIP cheering section because literally half my wedding was there. And she's the most wonderful woman in the world. I was her second ever interview. She's a media and marketing person. So I guess that worked out 3.5 years ago. So we recently got married. It was a lot of people's first quote unquote crypto or digital asset wedding. And we did that, like I said, in Costa Rica. It was super fun. And, she's just a wonderful person. So if you need marketing, media, that kind of help, she's great at it as well. And I can absolutely get you in contact with that, with her as well. She's got a huge following on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, as well as does great YouTube shorts and video content for your project and your business. So she can help advance it that way.
What is her Twitter?
It's Jenna X Crypto. I will drop it in this chat here.
Thank you. Yes, I had the opportunity of meeting Jenna, and she's just a fantastic young lady, very passionate about what she does. So thank you Joseph. Thank you so much, Joseph, for being here today. Who else has not introduced themselves? I'm losing track. Melissa, I know you haven't. Anybody else? Okay, wonderful. Melissa, you are up.
Okay, hi. So my name is Melissa Martin, and I work for Asahi Seiko USA, and we have launched this product called the AccuCycler Cash Management System, which helps businesses that work in cash to streamline their cash handling processes and mitigate their cash loss, shorten the time it takes to count at the end of the day, cuts down on loss and theft. And I'm here to help anybody who may be interested in helping their store mitigate their cash losses. So you can contact me at missym@asusainc.com. And thank you very much for having me here. Appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you so much for being here. With that, we are going to close for today. I will be cutting this down to a short and replaying it across social media. When you guys see the short, please drop your contact information in the post or whatnot. It'll be on Twitter, LinkedIn, probably Facebook, YouTube, and that's probably about it. Thank you guys so very much, and have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Merry
Hey,
Christmas.
Crystal, the chat information.
Will do. Thank you.